Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Greater Vision Podcasting. Today, I am your host, Celia Reynolds, and we have an amazing topic to talk about. I know that sometimes we get affected in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to, the things that we do in ministry, in church, with involving our faith. But today we want to talk about something that hits homes on a regular basis, but we rarely talk about it. It's called marital intimacy. Not, no, don't boo me. Don't boo me. This is something that needs to be discussed. It's come across my table of discussion several times in the community of wives and husbands. What to do when marital intimacy leaves the marriage? Well, today we have some amazing guests that are going to help us talk about this and create, you know, some center points of coming out of those bad situations and those bad times. We have with us Dr. and Pastor Rebecca Ashford and her amazing husband, Pastor L.C. Ashford. And today I just want to give you a little dialogue, a little background about Dr. Rebecca and Pastor L.C. Dr. Rebecca Ashford is a pastor, an author, a speaker, and a human resources executive with more than 2 decades of leadership experience. She serves as the assistant pastor of Jireh Christian Ministries. She is passionate about helping people discover purpose, strengthen relationships, and grow in their faith. She uses her personal testimony and practical wisdom to encourage others to live authentically and intentionally. As the author of Grace wrote the chapters, I will be getting that. How God edited my mess into a message. Dr. Ashford inspires audiences through transparent conversations about marriage, faith, healing, and personal growth. She has been married for 18 years to the amazing Pastor L.C. Ashford and are committed to helping couples build marriages that are spiritually grounded, emotionally healthy, and deeply connected. Welcome,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Ashford.
Glad
Thank
to
you
be
so much.
here.
And she is a fashionista. I follow her. She's an amazing woman of God. She teaches women about how to dress effectively and faithfully. Yes. Okay, we have Pastor L.C. sitting to the right of me. Pastor L.C. Ashford is a devoted husband, father, pastor, and advocate for strong families. He serves as senior pastor of Jireh Christian Ministries with a passion for faith, leadership, and authentic relationships. He brings practical insight and real life experience to conversations about marriage and intimacy. Having shared 18 years of marriage with his wife Rebecca, he believes that la- he believes that lasting intimacy is built through trust, communication, friendship, and a shared commitment to God. His honest and relatable perspective encourages couples to strengthen their connection and thrive in every season of marriage. Audience, please welcome Pastor Wilson. This is an amazing marital couple. I chose them. I've been following them, and so you never know who is following you. You never know who is who you're encouraging. So when I go and I look for people to come in and to give us the word, give us the word and bring the word to us in ways that I can't sometimes bring myself because I'm not in ministry. I'm not a minister. I'm in ministry, but I'm not a minister. I want to effectively get someone in here that can speak on those levels, right?
Yes.
Because I don't want to ever overstep my boundaries. And so I've been following you too.
Ah,
Yes, and I like what I see.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
thank you for being a positive, imagery of what Miracle Couple is, alongside what our pastor first said is with several groups. But moving right along, we're talking about the foundation of marriage. What does that mean to you?
Wow. So for me, certainly God is at the realm. He's at the beginning. Without Him, we couldn't do what we do. We couldn't be who we are. Um, and having a strong marriage, rooted and grounded in the faith that we carry, is essential to our growth as couples, um, physically and both spiritually, being connected on a different level, understanding what that connection is. God brought us together, but now we're building a firm foundation on Him, on our faith, on our love for each other, and on the sanctity of marriage.
Absolutely. So I want to also ask you some question. What does the foundation of marriage mean to you?
Well, togetherness, you know, having, trying to have oneness on different levels, and it's not that you're going to be perfected, but at the end of the day, it's something to build on. And without having God in as part of the cornerstone, as the foundation, you are liable to not only not just fail, be stagnant, but pretty much almost disintegrate into nothing.
So when I think about marriage, just some issues that I know that I've had personally, that I've had, other people that I've known, with their friendship connections. I'm a 50, I'm a 70, so I'm a lot 50, so I've had some things to go along, that affect a lot of marriages, like menopause, right? Menopause, those are one of the things that can affect the marriage on the woman's side. So what I want to do when it comes to women issues, I definitely want you to address it on Monday. And when it comes to some men's issues, I would like for you to address those issues as well. As much as you can to your knowledge. And so when we speak about menopause, one that is it's a lot. It's a, it is, it's a condition that affects us, affects our estrogen levels and, everything is on the decline. And when you don't have what you need in your body takes toll. But how does that affect the marriage?
Wow. So when I started menopause, oh my gosh, going through perimenopause was a whole event. And then entering into menopause was, you would think, perimenopause would prepare you for the big one, but it really doesn't in a way. And what I found to be most effective is having a very serious conversation with my husband about what menopause means. I don't, we don't want to blame menopause on, not treating our husbands like we should.
Yeah.
But sometimes, honestly, you go through the mood swings, you go through the hot flashes, the frustration, the fogginess, the inability to concentrate, and it affects you intimately, right? So when I knew I was going through, menopause, I went to the doctor immediately because I didn't want the strain of that whole situation that was causing me a lot of stress to also affect my husband. Certainly he walks through it with me. He understands if it's cold in the house, it's just got to be cold because I'm hot. And if it's, the fan is on at night, if the ceiling fan, it's got to be on. And I'm gonna have a blanket. I mean, he just knows that. But he supports me in that journey. He seeks to understand. And that's the important thing, I think, to continue to understand that life happens, seasons change,
Yes.
and our bodies change.
Yes.
And we have to be able to effectively communicate those changes so that there is no innuendo of or insinuation of, well, we're falling out of love, or she doesn't, want to be with me. So we have to openly communicate about what's going on in our lives.
She made some very valid points. I think that the biggest thing that you said is communication, right, Pastor Elsie? Did it help when she communicated to you what was going on versus not addressing the situation at all?
Yeah, it was a big help. I mean, her menopause was my pause.
Yeah, okay, come on now, talk about Pastor Elsie. That's right.
Because I'm like, and even though she communicated that to me with me, it still caused me to pause. And I was like, man, okay. And you gotta it's just something that you have to adapt
Yeah.
and overcome. I was in the military for quite some time, and we were taught as soldiers to adapt and overcome. And so, and that's the thing about marriage, adapting and overcome. And so she started going through what she's going through, mentally, physically, emotionally, then as her husband, I have to make sure that I'm capable and able enough to understand and then adapt and overcome. So some nights she don't have to cut the fan on. I just go and cut it on.
Come on now, Pastor Elsie.
And so, and we got sheets with a comforter and then a thick blanket on the bed, and so sometimes I'll try to create a barrier so that I won't feel the thickness of the blanket as well as the comforter and the sheet. I'm hot into myself.
That's right.
So I'm like, and some nights I say something out loud, and some nights I just don't say nothing. I just deal with it. I adapt and I overcome. Some nights I just take all the cover off me so I can feel some kind of coolness.
That's right. But we're laughing, but it's so good to hear you as a man. You're relating this to other men, and you're a man of God. You're in ministry. You lead a congregation. So therefore, you're expressing what men need to hear about what they can effectively do in the homes with their wives to make it easier, to help her transition through what she's going through, mentally, physically, and spiritually, because it can affect you spiritually as well, especially when you don't know, if you're not willing to go and seek the counsel and seek the doctor and seek the, to get the kind of diagnosis that you need for yourself. For it, I dealt with this. I had our child, and it was a miracle because they said that you have to snip, tie, burnt, everything, right? And he still came. And he threw me in, it was just the last one, he threw me in perimenopause at the age of 41. So I went through that, but I didn't get diagnosed because the doctors, it's so hard to get diagnosed at that age. They want to tell you everything else, and they had me on all these different medications, and I said, God, I can't do this. And so one of the scriptures that led me through and just helped me to seek what I needed to get for myself was Proverbs 3 verses 5 through 6. And it says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. I would sit up and I would meditate on that, and when I was going through it, I said, God, this got me something, right? Because I'm not getting this. And so I finally found a holistic doctor that said, yeah, you ain't got no problem. What's wrong with you? This is why you don't want to be touched. Because I like to think, don't touch me, don't look at me. And my husband, he was just like, what is going on with you? But I felt like I was going through it, but didn't have the diagnosis. And I just felt like, okay, well, something's got to be something, right? And I knew that it wasn't that I didn't love my husband. I love this man, I was like, God, what is going on with me? And so warfare is real,
Yes.
especially within marriages, because even with menopause, the enemy can use that if you're leaning onto your own understanding, you're not leaning onto God. He can use that and turn some things around because, there was a situation, do you still find me attractive? Did you do this? Those kind of dialogues where it shouldn't have been that, right? But it was. But when we sat down and we talked about it, and I ran out and I found that doctor among many doctors. I think it was like the fifth one that I saw, the fifth one, and all the other ones in the high practices with good, reviews could not diagnose. But God had already diagnosed me. He had already said, this is what you got going on, but you just got to find somebody medically who's good. So I was able to get that done, and because because I made sure to get it done. It was something that was important to me. So why this has to be important to you, right? For yourself and for your marriage.
Yes.
Because you want to make sure that your husband doesn't feel like it's him or it's something that he did or the kids. Because my kids was like, what's wrong? You always mad? I can't never get nothing right. You slamming doors. You're doing this. You're doing that. I was a mess. And I was 45 when I got diagnosed. So about 4.5 years it took me. But because I leaned not onto my own understanding, and I really gave it to God, it wasn't as bad as it could have been, right? So what I'm saying, if you're doing it without God, if you're not seeking to get the answers that you need, medically and spiritually, faithfully, you have to do both. It's a roundabout thing, right? Right? You sit at the table like we're sitting at, but you got to go all the way around the table to get your answers. You can't just stop at it being medically and say, "Hey, I'm done," because what you do medically, that's medically. But if you're not putting God at the center of it, and that's exactly what I wanted you all to talk about, is how you take these different situations, like menopause, and we're going to talk about there's a male hormone. What is it? Absence called andropause, right? And we want to talk about that because that's not talked about enough. It's not. They don't even think it exists, but it does. It does exist. And so, can you elaborate to the best of your knowledge of what you know about that, and if you have had any kind of experiences, or if you know of anyone that has, that's dealt with that, the mental, the aspect of it, or the physical aspect of these things?
I mean, first of all, what we must understand as being our understanding sometimes with certain things is limited.
Mhm.
And that's why the scripture is so prevalent about what it says in Proverbs, lean not to your own understanding, because it's limited. And so when we go through certain things, we don't want to talk about it, especially something of that magnitude. First of all, our understanding of it is limited. And then secondly, I'm a man.
Yes.
I don't have those kind of issues. Well, there are issues that men have. And so, because even if we've been together for 20 plus years, we've been married 18 plus years now, and there's sometimes, and she'll tell you this, there are times when I don't want to be bothered. I mean, it's just us and I. All our kids are gone and grown.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time with some, well, I guess a third of our grandbabies. But for the most part, it's just me and her house. And sometimes she in the den watching TV and I'm in the bedroom. Sometimes she in the bedroom, I'm in the den. It just, but it happens. So, but as a man, we need to not be so, for lack of a better term, closed-minded
Yes.
to certain things because men go through things too. And so if you don't express yourself, you have an issue expressing yourself. Like when my wife first got together, one of the things that I mentioned to her is I said communication is going to be key for us to communicate what we're dealing with, what we feel, and how we are. But if you don't communicate, then I'm not a mind reader. I don't want you to try to read my mind, I don't want to try to read your mind. But if we communicate, we can make some things happen. And notice, I stress communicate. I'm not talking about arguing. And some people don't believe this, but it's true. Some people don't believe it. But my wife can attest to it. She's not attesting to this because she's my wife. I can't count on one hand how many times we argue in 21st years. Because we don't. We don't argue. We don't. I don't like arguing. And you know, now I'm not going to run from confrontation, but at the end of the day, especially I believe in a marriage, and even especially in a marriage, if you're arguing about something instead of trying to state your point, then how you can't come to a resolve. And so when you have an issue with menopause, andropause, and all that stuff like that, it's best to communicate because, sometimes, could be, would be argument is bring up, but then you have to know how to deal with it. And so I can't remember the scripture off the top of my head, or just maybe the phrase to say, where you can catch uh, more flies with honey, or more bees with honey, whatever. So when you're having those issues where you don't want to be bothered, you don't want to be touched, you don't want to, you having hot flashes or anything like that. And like I said, men go through certain things too, but as men, we say, we want to stick our chest out. That ain't gonna happen to me. Well, get ready, girl.
Come on now.
It's coming. It's coming. It's gonna happen. It can happen to you. I don't care how strong you are, how strong you think you are. You can have issues where mentally you break down, and then that has an effect on your body physically.
That's right. That's right. It does. It has an effect on your body physically. You're right. In Deuteronomy 8:18, it says, "But thou shalt remember the Lord my God, for it is He that giveth the power of to get wealth." Okay, now that's one thing, and that's a great scripture. But you cannot build the marriage and have the foundation, and it be broken in other ways, right? A marriage, how do you feel about that? If it's broken in one way, then it's broken, right?
Yes.
It's all got to be connected together. So for the power couples, that's why I put that scripture in. For the power couples that rely faithfully on just building the wealth for the family. But then the disconnection in the bedroom, the disconnection in communication, the disconnection in everything. How can you have a connection that's undefiled in the bedroom if you're disconnected in every other way? Is it possible, Pastor Elsie?
No, it'll be worse than a uphill battle.
So they dreaming when they say they just married for money. They just married up, all that kind of stuff. Right?
That's not real.
I think, essentially what happens is life gets louder than your relationship.
Yes.
And if you're not careful, all of those things concerning wealth and building wealth, working, providing, all of those things can force you into a relationship that looks like your roommates.
Woo!
Because you forget what's important, the time you spend, the little notes you used to leave, the text messages you would send throughout the day saying, "I love you, I can't wait to see you." It's the little things that we have to understand before intimacy happens in the bedroom. Intimacy happens outside of the bedroom.
Come on now.
And it's all about that relationship building. What are those pillars that take you to that point where you're so excited to see your mate when you get home from a long day at work? when I was in a stressful job, because I've been in HR for almost 30 years. So when I was working in manufacturing, all of my positions in every manufacturing facility I worked in was super stressful. So by the time I got home, I was depleted. I didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to talk because I talk for a living. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to, I just wanted to come in, de-press, de-stress, and just be alone for about 30 minutes to an hour. And when I made the transition, my husband had to remind me, when I made the transition from a for-profit organization to working in nonprofit, he literally said to me, now he didn't say anything while I was going, through my career aspirations. He supported me in what I wanted to do. When I made the transition to nonprofit, I felt like this is out of my element. I'm not sure if this is what I want. And he said to me, this is literally the best job you've ever had. And I can say that emphatically because he said, you're not stressed. You don't come home every day feeling like you gotta be isolated just to get reconnected to your family. You don't come home every day so stressed out until you just don't want to be bothered and you're snapping at your family. And so I have to really think about that because building wealth and having the money is one thing, but there are other things that come along with that could negatively impact your relationship. Having a steady income and a solid marriage,
Yes.
a solid relationship is way more important than making the six-figure salary, being gone all the time, coming home stressed, taking it out on your family, and then really destroying the core of what your marriage is built on. So it's important that we weigh our options. Your life issues, your life is life, it cannot be louder than your relationship.
That's so true. That's so true. I have just a couple of pointers that I put in here to just kind of go off of. It says God gives direction. He provides provision. He protects your business. You operate with integrity. You build legacy, not just income. Peace over pressure. Pastor Elsie.
Yeah, just, I mean, you have to have balance. And, well, from a world perspective, it only deals with money, riches and whatnot. But if you are in God, or trying to be in God, wealth is really, is real wealth comes from God. And it makes your relationship healthy. Do I have everything I want? Sometimes I don't. I feel like I don't. Let me say that. I feel like I don't. But at the end of the day, God gives me my wife what we need
Amen.
to survive. Because when you don't have the world, all of the worldly riches and wealth that they characterize God, they define it, then when you have God, it makes a difference because just when you need what you need, God will give it to you. And then He'll help you to navigate through those times when you don't have all of the quote unquote money to do this and do that. But God will give you what you need to get done, what you need to get done. And then it'll come at the most opportune time. And that's how God works. And that's what helps keep the relationship wealthy and healthy.
And I would add that you have to examine your wealth perspective because wealth encompasses more than money. I would much rather have a wealthy mindset as it relates to my family and my marriage than be miserable in a house in a mansion because I just want the money. Is more important that, as you said, the wealth is have to learn how to be, as Paul Evans said, we got to learn how to be content in whatever state we find ourselves in. And we're the type of people who just make it work regardless of what's thrown at us. We figure it out. If we're committed to something, we figure out how to make it work, even when we're not happy in the situation. We still figure out how to make it work because it is more important to stick together than it is to allow a temporary emotion or temporary situation to define or to make a temporary decision, a permanent decision, I'm sorry, based on a temporary situation. Because things change, everything in life it has ebbs and flows. And we just need to learn how to adjust and adapt, as you said earlier. Adapt and overcome.
We're all, I guess at the end of the day, especially when we hit with stressors and just life is like children come into play, financial things come into play, parents, elderly, especially if you're a caregiver to your parents or anything like that, you love your family, families come into play because that can have, all these things could be stressors and they add or subtract from a marriage. But when we have God and we put God at the center of all things, God gives us balance. He gives us ways to navigate through all the different obstacles that we have that we're facing. And so I just thought it was so important for us to come together as believers and women in Christ and marriages and talk about this today because it affects the home, it affects the church. When the marriages are not on the best path, they're on the path of destruction sometimes, and it leads to divorce, unfortunately, because we don't talk about the things that are affecting us. Everything needs to stay behind closed doors. Put up this big front in the church when it should be talked about. Not airing all your dirty laundry, not, as that phrase, or telling all your business, but if it's going to affect your home and break up your home, then it's time to come to your pastor or someone that you can trust that's in leadership and say, hey, right? So can you, express or elaborate to the men that may be having some issues, how to go about navigating getting the help that they need from as a ministerial standpoint? I know that you see someone in your congregation that looks like they need some help. I'm sure that that's what you do, but we have an audience full of men out here that would love to just hear maybe some insight of maybe they don't know when they need to come. Maybe they're so far, they don't know when they need to come.
Well, the scripture, that's why it says, "I sharpen iron." And there's another scripture, the Bible says, "Honor your love keeper." Doesn't mean just men, just men. It's obviously should love. But as a man, if you are dealing with some difficult issues, you don't really quite know what they are. It's good to possibly go to another man. And if you are close confident, shall I say, to talk about it. And this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm feeling. And if they don't really understand it or get it, then, the internet is a powerful thing, powerful tool sometimes use for the greater good. Google, seek out because if you want, because again, just to hit it real quick, you can have all the money you want, all the 401k you want, and still do nothing.
Yes.
And as a man, like I said, we don't want to face those untalked about, those untouched issues. But that's the issue in itself. So, for one, having the foundation of God, it can help you. And here again, it doesn't mean that you're not going to go through. But what it guess what? And my thing to say to them, hey, well, brother, as long as you hanging, you can don't stop hanging.
Don't stop hanging.
And while you're hanging, if you can find an outlet to have somebody to hang with you, then that's a good thing. And so, and it doesn't mean that you need to have a whole lot of people around you all the time, but have people around you that's going to be honest with you, that's going to tell you the truth about you. And then, as a man, you gotta get, you have to get to the place in your life where you're honest with yourself.
Come on now. Yes.
Because, we can, at a certain point, you faking the phone, it's gonna catch up with you.
Yeah.
It's gonna catch up with you, it's gonna tell on you, and that's gonna be in there.
Okay.
So, like I said, seek God, seek wise counsel, be around people, or in person, if it's just one person, two people, but be around people that's gonna be honest with you, and you be honest with yourself, and ask yourself, sometimes ask yourself those hard questions.
Okay. Finishing up, Dr. Rebecca, I would like for you to, end this out with the women and the call to action. If there's a woman that is in need of prayer in a marital situation and needing some help, we know that abuse is on the rise, and we just want to speak life into these situations as well.
Absolutely. I would say certainly that if there is any woman out there in an abusive relationship, get yourself and your children, if you have them, to safety, because your safety is most important. And then, we move on in a different direction. Because God never intended for us to stay in an abusive situation. So He wants us to be safe, He wants us to be whole. For all other women who are facing challenges like I have, in marriage, and trying to understand and navigate through the difficulties of building a firmer foundation once you fall in love, and then what's next? The work doesn't stop, and that's what we need to understand as Christians and as unbelievers. The work does not stop in marriage. It takes work to build a strong foundation. It takes work to build a strong marriage. And you have to be committed to the work. If you're not committed to the work, it's not going to work. Communication being the pillar, God being at the head, it is important that we lean not, as you mentioned, to our own understanding, but in all our ways acknowledge God, even in our marriages. Acknowledge who God is and allow Him to help us to navigate through this thing called life.
Amen. Thank you, T, for coming out and blessing us with your presence and your wisdom and just leadership and ministry as you have and as you continue to in your own ministry. We're just thankful here at Greater Vision Podcasting just for having you guys out, taking your time out of your busy schedule. I pray that you all enjoy the city. I don't know if you're familiar with Perry, but enjoy some of Perry. We have some great restaurants and stuff around here y'all can eat, fellowship and stuff. But we just want to just end out just thanking everyone for tuning in. God bless you all. We pray that your marriages get get what it needs. We're praying that you're honest with yourself enough, right? It's a hard subject to talk about. Like I said, we've all kind of been through different areas in our lives, some things, some challenges, but we just want you all to get what you need, right? Bring it to the Lord. Be honest with yourself and be honest with your partner, right? Your wife or your husband, whichever way it falls. And that way you can connect together, you can reconnect, and you can save the union that God put together, right? Because that's what it's all about. Until next time, I'm your host, Sylvia Reynolds. Thank you for tuning in.
Breakfast will be served in the back. We have this, we have